Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Entitled People. Hope you're all doing wonderful. It's time to check out some more stories about some of the most wonderful, pleasant people, some real gems of humanity. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet for more content like this, and let's get right into it. Big group thinks they own the forest because they come all the time. A few months ago, towards the end of the season in this area, I went camping with my friends. We were 3 women. The spot we chose was on a cliff with a great view of a canyon and the creek at the bottom. The area allows dispersed camping, and there are very few spots with that view, and it's first come, first serve. When we arrived, only one spot was left, with the view hidden behind trees, but only a few feet away. The view could only be accessed by walking straight through our camp. I think there are other spots you can hike to without going through a campsite. On our first night there, a couple, 2 men, walked into our camp, saying they wanted to see the view. I wasn't super comfortable because you can't trust a stranger in a forest, and they were in our space, but they were only there for a few minutes and left. The next day, we went to watch the sunset on the cliff, and had left all our stuff lying around the camp, when we start hearing cars, dogs, voices, and screaming kids. 2 cars pulled up to our camp and walked right in, making themselves comfortable. We ran back to see all of our space was completely invaded. Kids under our tarp and running around the tent poles, people around our fire, etc. We had a small puppy with us that was terrified of the new dog, but these people didn't care. A woman explained that they live nearby and love coming to see the view. I was in absolute shock at the disrespect. Everyone is allowed to enjoy nature, and it was a public spot, but you have to respect if someone is there first. At least have the decency to ask. As they were leaving, well after sunset, the same woman said they'd be coming later that night to see the stars. My friends were so angry, and I was still in shock. As they were loading their car, I ran up to them and said the first thing that came to mind. I asked one of the men, "Hey, when you come back later, are you planning on bringing the kids?" "I'm not sure, why is that?" the man asked. "Well, the thing is, we're out here to do heavy drugs. We're starting in a few minutes, and things might get pretty wild, and I wouldn't want to expose children to that. You as adults might be able to handle it, but I don't know what will happen." As a side note, I don't do any drugs and only drink occasionally. They never came back, thank God, and hopefully they learned something about respecting people's space. Now that's a pretty clever way to make sure that they never come back, although a bit risky. I wouldn't have been surprised if they told the cops what you said to them, and then later that night you just happened to get a friendly visit from the police to see what was up. But fortunately, I guess that never happened. Anyway, I find it hard to believe that that one campsite has the only view of the canyon. They probably could have just gone somewhere else, but you know, this is entitled people we're dealing with. Like OP said, if they had just come up and asked and were friendly about it, it probably would have been okay, but they didn't ask. My pregnant ex keeps trying to move into my apartment. This is not my story, this is my friend's story that I'm posting for him because he doesn't have a Reddit and wants people to hear about this. Also, for convenience, I'm going to write this in first-person point of view because pronouns are hard to keep up with. Everything here is approved by my friend. So I'm a 21-year-old male. I have an ex, Angelica, 20. Angelica and I had an on and off relationship since we were about 15, but got serious when COVID hit, and I had to move back to my hometown. We got an apartment together, and very soon after, she started spending a lot of time with her quote-unquote cousin. Long story short, she's boning her quote-unquote cousin. We break up. We've been broken up 9 months at this point. For 7 of those months, her phone has been on my phone bill, and she owes me over $500. Fine, whatever. I'll never see that $500, and she always makes excuses to pay me back. That's life. My own fault for letting her keep using me as a cash cow. She also took my car when we broke up, and I let her because I was too afraid she would try to take my apartment too. Anyway, it's 9 months past our breakup. I get a message. "Hey, I'm pregnant." I'm on my way home from work, so I don't respond. That is 9 months past being my problem. It is not my baby. She messages me again. She said, "My boyfriend and I have nowhere to stay." The one she cheated on me with. Still 9 months past my problem. Angelica has never worked a day in her life. She lives off the disability check from her boyfriend and spends it 99% on weed and fast food. She never paid rent and is documented to never pay rent. Anyway, she tells me, "My name is still on the lease. We're going to move in September." I tell her, "Your name is not on the lease. It was renewed last month and I took your name off. I'm sorry." She messages me, calling me an a-hole and saying she's moving in because she has nowhere for her baby and 3 dogs to stay. Mind you, my apartment is more like a studio and barely fits me, let alone 2 other people and 3 dogs. I tell her it's not happening, I'm moving out of town soon anyway. Also, come pick up her crap that she's left at my apartment for 9 months. She says no, and if I throw it away, she's going to press charges. I tell her it doesn't matter because when I move, I'm throwing it away. She later called my landlord and told him I was planning to move out. I got upset at this and told her I ran the numbers on the car. It's still in my name. Get the car out of my name now or I'm repossessing it, or she can leave me the F alone. She started bawling on a call, asking how could I do this to her and her unborn child, and I was condemning her and her child to be homeless. She also still has a gun in my name that I told her to give back or I'm calling the cops. I'm really considering repossessing the car since it was mine from the start and is still in my name. She doesn't deserve to get a free car handed to her. She needs to wake up. She keeps saying she needs a place to stay. I'm ruining her and her baby's life. It's literally my apartment that she has never once paid rent on. I don't know how she thinks she's entitled to just live in my apartment with the guy she cheated on me with and 3 dogs. I hope the baby ends up okay. It's not its fault, its mother is a spoiled brat. But I also hope being homeless and carless wakes her the F up. Tiny update, and OP is now speaking in third person about his friend. He says her and her boyfriend, fake cousin, came to my friend's apartment, returned the gun, and picked up her crap. Her boyfriend then proceeded to wave his own gun around and demand to be put back on the lease. Not how that works. My friend called the cops. They booked it out of there before the cops arrived. I'm not sure about the rest. Edit for more clarification. Also, no response back from him, so I don't know at this point. Alright, final update. Phone is not on the phone bill. Her stuff is out of his apartment. Gun is returned. Dog is in his possession. Still no car. He said it's not worth it at this point. My friend asked for no charges, so I doubt anything will happen. He said he's cutting her out of his life, no contact. I'm personally upset about the car, but nothing to do about it now. Dude, he actually let her get away with the car. Why in the world would he do that? Maybe it's just not worth that much or something. But money aside, the way I see it is it's the principle that counts. I get just wanting to cut your losses and be done with it, but damn dude, have some self-respect. But on the bright side, I doubt they'll come back after the guy waved his gun around like that and got the cops called on them. So there's that, I guess. I trespassed. You pay for the damages. Not my story. That of a colleague who trained me for my job. Also on mobile and English isn't my first language and so on. I'll call my colleague Dan, not his real name. Dan was a train dispatcher, now retired. The job requires us to make sure that trains can arrive and depart safely, at the right platform and whatnot. We're basically boss of the station, and responsible to ensure the safety of people working on the tracks. Just to give you a little insight in the job. Well, Dan has 3 crossings under his control where the gates block the whole street. So to ensure that nothing is locked in on the tracks, there are cameras, no recordings, just a live picture, that need to be checked before he can allow a train to cross. There's always some idiots who think they can still make it, even when the gates are lowering already, and even though the traffic lights turn red before the bars even move. And so was our entitled dude this time. He drove a very new, very expensive sports car and sped under the gates, but didn't make it. While leaving the crossing, the gate fell on his car. Both car and gate were damaged, but entitled dude wouldn't stop. He drove off, just to get the cops and a lawyer involved. Entitled dude actually tried to sue the train company for the damages on his car. Big mistake. Entitled dude was laughed right out of court. Instead of being paid for his damages, he got a fine for trespassing, for driving over a red traffic light, and had to pay for the damages on the gate. And for his own car, of course. Usually nothing happens to those idiots because we can't track back to who decided risking their lives would be worth 5 minutes. But this guy's greed dug him his own grave. You gotta love it when people just shoot themselves in the foot like that. I can't even comprehend how someone can possibly think they're in the right after driving through an active train crossing. Even after consulting with the lawyer and going to court, he didn't second guess. How does that even happen? The lawyer probably just really wanted his money and didn't tell him that this was a bad idea. But it really doesn't take a lawyer to figure that much out. Babysitting means paying the kids' dental bills. Here's a fun one. Years ago, I would often babysit my neighbor's 9 to 10-year-old daughter. He was a divorced father, with the kind of ex that would send spreadsheets of child-rearing expenses, calculated to the penny, and weekly invoices complete with terms and penalties of her own choosing for late payments. He paid big child support and generally paid her invoices on time because she would cut off access to kiddo if he didn't. His ex, the snake, and I had basic text messaging contact. She and I had a previous dust-up because a sudden weather change necessitated a jacket for kiddo. We popped into the nearest discount store and I let her pick a jacket. Kiddo loved it, but her mother threw a giant fit at me because it wasn't brand name. I blew it off and the neighbor and I laughed about it when he reimbursed me. She gave me the silent treatment. Darn. Time moved forward. Father always reimbursed kiddo's expenses and encouraged fun and healthy activities. One day, he called me and apologized that he was getting held up at work and kiddo had an orthodontist appointment. He asked me to take her, I agreed, and he called the dentist to authorize. We got there and they wouldn't see her without a payment, $225. It was necessary. Kiddo's braces were hurting her. Dad wasn't available, but I knew he would reimburse me, so I put it on my credit card rather than call her snake of a mother. Kiddo got patched up, Dad reimbursed me, I paid the card and didn't use it. A few months later, I got a past due call from my card company. Repeat charges from the orthodontist. I let Dad know and called the orthodontist, who told me I signed an automatic payment agreement. I gave my "heck no, I'm just the babysitter" speech, and didn't get far with them, so I canceled the card. Dad apologized profusely and reimbursed me. A month later, I get a nasty call from the orthodontist about my card declining. I kindly informed them I'm not the parent and provide the snake's phone number. About an hour later, the snake is furiously calling and texting me. I silenced my phone and looked later. She maxed out my voicemail, and all of her text messages were about how I was abusing her child by denying the kid medical care. One voicemail was from the police, letting me know she filed a complaint, how I could get a copy for my attorney, and inquiring about whether I wanted to file a counter-complaint. I sure did. I moved out of state, and the prosecutor called me once just to ask questions. Then I never heard back from the prosecutor. Last I heard from kiddo's grandmother, the snake took a plea bargain, Dad got custody, and Grandma was enjoying a lot more time with kiddo. Edit for clarification. Friends, credit card fraud is illegal. Charging stuff to someone else's card is credit card fraud. She basically ratted her own self out to police by filing a complaint that I wouldn't let her steal from me anymore. She probably pled guilty to theft by deception, forgery, and/or both, or a combination of similar charges. I have never cared enough to try to find out, and there is nothing in the world that obligates me to pay for dental care for someone else's kid. That is such a strange stretch. Just no, that's not a thing. But at least something good came of it, and she actually ended up losing custody. I mean, I assume that's a good thing. Just based off this information, she's probably not a very good parent either. Moral of the story, guys, don't call the police when you are trying to commit credit card fraud. Actually, I take it back. Just don't commit credit card fraud in the first place. Anyway, that's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this episode, drop a like and also subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what you thought of the stories. And with that, I'm out of here, so have an amazing day, everyone, and I'll see you next time.